We are back with another edition of Smart Driving Cars. Thank you for spending time with us once again. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good morning, Fred. And we have matching shirts.
We do.
Again.
And guess who is with us? From Sweden, once again, consultant and publisher of The Dispatcher, co-author of The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Wonder who the other author is. Michael Sena. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Fred. Hi, Alain. Great to be with you again.
Well, we've been focusing quite a bit on GM Cruise of late for good reason. Michael, your headline in the Dispatcher Central was Cruise is taking a bruising. Now you're taking a look at Waymo, where it's been going back to 2009, maybe where it is going, and how it fits in with the Alphabet Google picture. Give us the overview here of what you're focused on.
The reason that I began writing the article, which has the headline of who is going to provide driverless services, was that there were two things happened almost one day after the other. The first was that Waymo sent a letter out to customers, to all of our customers, keep our cars clean. Now, if you've got to do something that's going to mess up the car, please ask the driver to stop and get out and do it outside the car. But we're trying to run something here that's for everybody. So if you're going to party, don't party inside of our cars. So that was one thing, the letter to all of our customers. And then the next day, it sent out a letter to its customers in Phoenix and said, now we've got some really good news for you. You can now order a Waymo driver, which is their driverless service, without a driver via Uber. You can use your Uber app to order a Waymo driver, Waymo so-called taxi or robotaxi. What is this all about? Suddenly we thought these people were competitors. I mean, isn't Waymo in the same business that Uber? They're just not doing it in the same places, or if they are, they're not really cooperating. So suddenly we have a letter that's going out to customers, and they've been in the business for a long time, and it doesn't seem that they've had problems before. But it was almost as if they were putting out a note to all of those potential Uber customers saying, if you come into our cars, you better behave yourself. That's the message that I got. So and of course, at the same time, Cruise has been having some major problems, which we discussed the last time we talked. And I felt that Waymo wasn't getting enough attention, not from a technology standpoint, but from the standpoint of where it fits in the context of the business that it's part of. It's part of Alphabet. It's not part of Google. I call Google is the Alphabet's portion of Alphabet, and Waymo is in what they call the other bets portion of Alphabet. And I've got a slide that it's in the article, but it shows that. So we've got Alphabet, also known as Google, and the other bets, where there's a whole list of these companies. So I tried to, in this article, and if I can summarize it, I say Waymo is not going to be in the taxi business. It's not going to be in the Uber business. It's not going to be in the taxi business for two reasons. The first is it doesn't fit into the Alphabet structure. The second reason is, even if it did fit into the Alphabet structure, it wouldn't be significant enough in terms of revenue potential to make it worthwhile for them to run it as a sort of a side business. So I think that the easiest way to explain this is to take a look at the slides where I show where Waymo is now and where I think Waymo will be in the not too distant future. This is in the front lawn of it's not really, but It's Waymo says we're in the autonomous driving business. We have to keep that in mind. So here is Alphabet. Alphabet has owners. It has its primary still primary controllers with Class B shares. The founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page. They have most of the votes, so they basically control Alphabet. There are other major shareholders: Vanguard, BlackRock, John Doerr, etc., and they have a large percentage of shares, but not large enough to be in control. Alphabet has two divisions, which they own 100% of. One division is Google, and the other division is what's called Other Bets. And underneath there are all of the names of the other bets. Under Google, you have hardware, Google Cloud, Google Maps and Waze, YouTube, network members, and so on. It's kind of difficult to get your head around Google because it's extremely difficult to get an organization chart which says these are the businesses that we have, and this is what these businesses do. So I took a look at the closest thing that I saw to a structure for the business had to do with revenue. Alphabet in 2022 was a $283 billion company. It's not the biggest company in the world, but it's rather large at 283 billion. Google, the Alphabet's portion of Alphabet, is 282 billion. The other bets portion is 1 billion, 0.38%. And in those other bets, we have companies called Access, Calico, Capital G, Intrinsic, Mineral, Nest. I think we've heard of Nest. A lot of these we haven't heard of. Wing Auto Aviation. DeepMind was in there, but now it's been merged into Google. It's now part of Google Research. And Waymo is there. And Waymo is listed as autonomous driving in the other bets portion of Alphabet. We can then look at the revenue of each of these businesses, and search, which is around 58% of the total revenue. It's Google search, and it's the everything related to all of the ads that are the money that's generated using Google search. Then we have network member ad service. So all of the companies that are part of the network that feed into and get fed by, they generate another 12% of the revenue. YouTube ads, not YouTube members, that's down in the other portion of business, but the YouTube ads generates almost 10.5%. So the ads that are related to the $29 billion business is YouTube ads. Their cloud, which is not part of search or not part of ads, you could say that it enables all of that, but it's not part of the ads. It's running a business of selling cloud services. And it's not doing all that great because Microsoft and Amazon are quite a bit bigger than it. But it still generates $26 billion in revenue, which most companies would love to have $26 billion in revenue. And the potential for it to grow is rather large, but it's not up in the 162 billion range. And then you have all of the other Play Store, hardware, YouTube members. If we then take a look at just Google, I had to sort of put this structure together because, as I said, it's not that easy to find something that says this is what we do and how we do it. But it's these 7 areas: web-based products, developer tools, operative systems, desktop tools, mobile products, hardware, and then we have services. Let's see if I can move this one out of the way here. And service, right now we've got one of the major services is Google Cloud. Web-based products, we have map-related products, and under map related products, we have Google Maps, now Waze, and also Street Views. There are more parts to this, but in addition to that, grouping tools, ad services, statistical, business, health, comms. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in there in web-based products. Then I've taken operative systems, and there we have Android and Chrome. And under Android, we have Android Auto. And under Android Auto, we have Android Automotive. And then we move over to hardware, where we have Pixel, Nest, Chromecast, and mobile as well as processes and so on. So this is the structure that we have with Google. What I then did through this article, and I'm summarizing going through this, and I obviously think it's worth reading the whole article to get to this point. But what I said was, Waymo right now is putting its equipment in a variety of different systems. It seems like every time we look at the news, there's another car company that's doing a deal with it in order to get its systems in there. So we started with Toyota, and then came Jaguar, then Pacifica, which they work with for quite a long time. Now, or lately, a Geely company has come in and says, we're going to be able to do some work with you, and let's get our stuff in your stuff in our cars. And now we have this note saying, well, we're going to be able to provide services to Uber. You can use them as an operator, and then our cars will come and deliver to you. And how we work out the deals, who pays and how that's paid, that's all secondary. So I went into what are the businesses that are actually operating these services, and I said, on the one hand, we have the taxi businesses, and I took the United States taxi business, which together, everything all in, U.S. taxi businesses, $12 billion. That wouldn't even make it into the let's list this under Google. It wouldn't make it there because it's half of what the lowest rung in the ladder is right now. Then I took a look at Uber. I mean, I don't know what most people think, but I think most people think that Uber's is world, global, big, lots of money. If you just look at Uber in the United States, and you look at only their taxi businesses, because they make money delivering food, they make money delivering packages. Their taxi business is $12 billion total. And if you look at their taxi business in the United States, it's $8 billion. This is not, again, so if Waymo were going to go into the I'm going to run a taxi business, or I'm going to run a service with taxis, and they look at all of the cost for Uber can't make money, and the taxi drivers provide the cars and themselves, and Uber's still taking 60%, and they still can't make money. They lost $9 billion last year. What would motivate a company like Alphabet to put into their Alphabet's business, Google, a company, take them out of the other bets and put them into the main business? If the revenue generation was marginal at best, uncertain, more probably uncertain, because of all of the costs associated with putting those cars into business. And I don't think there's any point in thinking about cars with Waymo cars as being the potential of generating the kind of money that YouTube generates. YouTube, if you look at the numbers and how much time people spend on YouTube, I don't, but lots of people do, and they spend a lot of time there. And every time they're doing something, they're clicking on ads, and that's generating a lot of money. We saw how much money they generated. 25 to $30 billion in revenue, and it's just going up. Do we think that somebody riding in a taxi for 16, maybe 15 minutes at a pop, maybe once a week, not every day, not for 7 hours a day, not for 20 minutes, it's solid looking at a screen, Do we think that that's going to generate the kind of revenue that's going to be of interest to Alphabet? Maybe there are people who do. I don't. My bet is this. My bet is that Waymo is going to become an integral part of Google. It's going to become an integral part of services, of hardware, of operative systems, and it's going to heavily use web-based products, in particular Google Maps, Street View, and HD Maps. HD Maps, high definition maps, are, I can say, mainly coming out of, there'll probably be people yelling and screaming it right now, but mainly coming out of the work that Waymo is doing in order to provide the kinds of map data that its systems need in order to be able to drive, particularly in urban environments. Those high definition maps, which Google are now incorporating into their family of automotive systems, to be able, like with Volvo, to be able to provide map data for advanced driver assistance systems. They were never able to do that before. They had a Google map that was for navigation and for information and positioning, but it wasn't high definition. It wasn't lanes and everything. So now HD Maps, part of Google, is expanding because of the need of Waymo, I would say, and in addition to wanting to be more for the companies that it's working for as a navigation infotainment as a base, so automotive, Android Automotive. So my bet is that this is where Waymo is going, that it is going to be providing its hardware and its services to companies, the hardware in cars, all cars, just like it's going with Android Automotive. It wants to be in all of the cars, offering navigation, infotainment, and advanced driver assistance systems support in cars. That Waymo Autonomous is going to be doing exactly the same thing. Autonomous driving for all cars that will put their systems into those vehicles, sell those vehicles, whatever the vehicles are, whether they're the same vehicles that we're driving around without steering wheels or with specialized systems, and selling those cars to operators, Uber-like, Lyft-like, or transit operators who are going to take 50 of these cars or 100 or 200 of these cars and operate them in their service areas to provide rides for people who really need mobility at a low cost, which is what the main reason for having driverless vehicles in a market. That's my spiel.
Michael, I think this chart is very telling. Okay, and to me, what this chart looks like is a chart probably similar to what the chart in Mobileye looks like. Okay, so if I look at Mobileye, okay, it looks a lot like Waymo, except it hasn't gone all the way and actually demonstrated that it can do driverless in city A and city B. Okay.
Can I just comment on that, because I think it's important that we agree that this is Mobileye, because I don't. Mobileye has nothing to do with services.
Yeah, but if one looks at Mobileye as to what I think, and I haven't done as thorough of a job at looking at Mobileye as you have on Waymo, but their book of business is to sell, I guess, to car companies, Mobileye hardware and Mobileye auto, and to put that in as many cars as they can, and in a sense is out there really as somewhat the darling of this industry, because they have revenue, because they have been able to get into some cars, and they have a book of business because they have had some manufacturers go out and buy that. And whether or not they are creating Street View, the high definition maps, they have to be because of the people that they have in who knows what, India and everywhere else, doing labeling of whatever all the data they claim they capture from their from their cameras, and to me, this is what it looks like. Looks like the same thing of saying, here we have an auto industry that has vehicles that could really use this automated technology that is being developed. And in some sense, what we've called from the beginning the safe driving car and the self-driving car, where you have a human in there. You have the human backup. And in fact, probably looks a heck of a lot like what the Tesla looks like with FSD and autopilot. Because what is Tesla putting in their cars? They're putting in their own operating system, their own driver assistance system to sell to people who buy cars. Now they've said also, along with that, these systems are going to be there right now. You've in the fine print it says somebody has to be watching over it, and therefore it gives them an out because so far I think all of the legal challenges to Tesla with respect to being the cause of crashes, I think they've won all of them. At least, again, maybe I'm not up to date, but juries and judges have found that they've even though the names might suggest that this thing allows you to fall asleep or go in the back seat and do whatever you do in the back seat while the thing's on. They said, no, you're responsible. Okay. And so out here, with respect to the Waymo hardware and Waymo Auto, the big play, as I agree with you, in Alphabet and as we do other bets to move that such that it has a big book of business associated with what they have, is to go in there and just put whatever's in Waymo car and make that available to, GM, Ford, Toyota, Mercedes, everybody else, Volvo, and get that book of business and basically nudge Mobileye the heck out of here and compete with them and put it out there. And like with Tesla saying, we're going to put this in all of our cars, but at some point we're going to make it good enough such that you don't need the person in there. We're going to evolve this thing to the point at which we're there and the driver's not necessary anymore, and we're going to have a robo-taxi. And you can then put your robo-taxi out there to either sell to people like me who would want to buy them all and create a system, a national distribution of franchises that would operate these things as affordable taxis, which take the taxi business from being a 1% business or less than 1% business because of its affordability to all of a sudden a 20% business. Do a 20x on it. And once you do a 20x on that business, then you have some revenue. But that requires the thing to be good enough to be able to be driverless.
Where's the 20x?
No.
What is the 20x coming in?
Huh?
What's the 20x? 10x,
Instead
20x?
of providing less than 1% of the trips across the nation, provide 20% of the trips. Person trips. That's how you grow 20x. The reason why the taxi business is only once in a while, the reason why I only use Uber, Lyft once in a while, is because it's too expensive. I have human costs for which I have to charge a human fare.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But if
yes.
I have robo costs, then my robo costs are 1/5 less than my human costs. And if I look at, introductory, grade school economics, supply demand, all of a sudden, if I'm out there and I can provide mobility affordably, then people might just take me. And all of a sudden, my business, nobody used search before Google.
They did.
Really made search easy and inexpensive to use.
They did.
No, they didn't. They went to the library.
Yeah,
They
or
went and pulled out.
they went to a
It
very
was
large business that basically is has disappeared. It's the Yellow Pages. You know, that my father made advertisements in the basement in his his little studio in the basement for the local Yellow Pages.
Sure.
Barry
And
Glick,
how much did people use Yellow Pages? Once a
practically
week.
every day. I don't know.
Not the way people use search today.
I don't know whether people use search.
You put in there, who picked their nose today. I mean, people use search all the time.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, we can compare. Yeah, we can compare Google to the Yellow Pages to the encyclopedia. We sat around dinner and somebody said, what's the capital of Colombia? And so I went and get my World Book encyclopedia, and I couldn't. Our family couldn't afford Encyclopedia Britannica, and I brought it out to the table, and we said, looked it up, and we got Bogota. So okay, I can do that now on my telephone. There are lots of things that we used to do before, but it's not like we never did that before. It's not like search was the invention of, Google was the invention of people looking up information. It was just not that convenient. Yeah.
They just disrupted the lookup business by making it extremely easy and extremely inexpensive. They were Schumpeter-like disruptors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now back
to the mobility. And what did the car do? The car was a Schumpeter-like disruptor for people to get from A to B at time T. And guess what that did? That created an enormous economic engine. Sure, it unemployed a few people, but guess what? More people are employed now than were employed before before Henry Ford. So Henry Ford, through his automation or through his mobility, didn't unemploy a bunch of people. He created an economy that employed gazillions. So when people say, "Oh my goodness, driverless mobility is going to unemploy some bus drivers," yeah, but guess what? It's also going to enable an enormous number of people to for freedom and mobility to increase the economic activity to such an amount that there'll be more jobs.
I agree.
Okay,
that's why. I mean, that's why we wrote
that in
our
book. But
exactly.
nobody's on this.
One of the chapters in the book is who will operate driverless services, and this is a very important issue. It's extremely important. It ain't Mobileye. It ain't Mobileye. And it ain't NVIDIA.
It ain't NVIDIA.
It's looking more and more like it's not going to be Cruise. There are a couple of other companies out there. And what I say,
not going to be Cruise.
And what I'm saying, and everybody, you can all think that I'm absolutely out to lunch. I don't think it's going to be Waymo either.
It's not going to be Waymo. It's not going to be Waymo.
Alan, Waymo is doing it. Waymo. If you ask anybody what business is Waymo in, they don't say, I've got this chart that I saw, and I think Waymo is I've got the sign, and it's clear that the sign says we're in the autonomous driving business. But when Waymo is asking for the right in San Francisco, in California, not just San Francisco, to get paid for providing driverless cars, wouldn't you assume that Waymo is going to be in the driverless ride business and not in the autonomous driving business?
I think so in the beginning, but the way they've even set it up is, I think they have a contractor doing their vehicle maintenance. They have a contractor doing their where they house the things. They probably have a contractor in the command and control center. These things, the way this is going to be is it's going to be a taxi business that's going to run these things. But it's going to be a bigger taxi business locally. Who runs a Starbucks?
Okay.
Starbucks isn't run out of Seattle.
So
they create the cookie cutter, and they get franchises, and they franchise the damn thing all over the darn place.
So are you saying because what you said before was that when I look at this chart, I see Mobileye. When I look at this chart, I don't see Mobileye anywhere. I see Mobileye as being a provider, potentially being a provider of hardware. If Waymo can't develop its own hardware better than the
Yeah, but
hardware
that's what.
that NVIDIA, or better than what Mobileye could provide, then maybe somebody has their hardware in there. But right now, what Waymo is saying, we can provide an end-to-end solution, exactly what they're doing with Android Automotive. We can provide an end-to-end solution with our maps, with our technology.
Yeah,
We'll give you the services. We're not bringing in NVIDIA. We're not bringing in Mobileye. We're doing this ourselves. But if it
yeah.
turns out that somebody else can do it better, maybe they'll buy them. Maybe they'll buy that company, just like they bought all the other companies that they've got, like YouTube, for example. They bought
That's
YouTube. They didn't develop
monopolistic
YouTube. It
practices.
wasn't even it
That's
wasn't even on
illegal.
it wasn't even on the
That's
other bets.
illegal.
What's illegal about buying a company to provide this?
Because if you buy your competitor, the Justice Department comes in there and decides whether or not that's anti-competitive.
I think that this is exactly what from the start, what Google has been thinking about. We're not providing. We're not in the business of providing the services to customers. You provide the business to customers, and you can choose to use a Tesla. You can choose to buy an NVIDIA and incorporate it into your system. You do the services. Knock yourselves out. We're providing an end-to-end solution. We
Yeah,
provide
but
you with
so
an end-to-end solution in the car, right up to providing you with all of the technology that you need to deliver the services to customers, including getting paid, managing the cars. We don't do it for you, but we enable you through our systems to be able to do it.
sure, but that's what Mobileye I think would like to do. This is
Okay.
and this is, I think Elon has even said it. He said he'll make for self-driving and whatever auto available to anybody else.
You mean the
And what
technology
and what that
that he has
does
in his
and what that
cars will deliver?
does.
You mean the technology or the cars? Because he can sell his
No, not the
cars to.
cars, not the cars, the technology.
I think
He's talking about making it available. So what these folks are trying to do, instead of being in the give them a ride bit, sell me something so that I can give myself a ride, or go out and give rides to people. What you've pointed out and pointed out very well is that Waymo doesn't want to be in the give ride business because they might have to clean a car. Okay, it's too dirty for them. What they would like to do is just here, give the technology. You buy the technology from me. You do the heavy lifting. You do the day to day. You fill the cup of coffee, the cup of latte in the latte store. You do that you sell the lemonade at the lemonade stand. We're going to sell you the sugar, and we're going to sell you the glass, and we're going to sell you the process of mixing the lemonade and some lemons and all that stuff, which is what you've laid out here. Google Maps, they're competing with here.
Of course.
If they go buy here, then I think the Justice Department should go in there and say that's anti-competitive.
You know what? I point this out in the article. If you took the two largest map companies together,
Yeah,
right, TomTom and Here,
yeah,
it doesn't come up to a $2 billion company. I mean, it's in the same categories. I mean, I'm not saying that Here and TomTom are bad businesses, but the amount of revenue that they're generating is appropriate for what they're doing. And that's
yeah,
why Google Maps is where it is. It's not a separate company. It's not generating revenue. You don't see it in the, listed as one of the 29 billion, 6 billion, 10 billion. It's part of web-based
yeah,
products, and it's doing what it has to do. It's supporting the generation of revenue. It's
yeah.
supporting everything else. And it's going to
Sure.
support, in my view, it's going to support Waymo Autonomous. And
Yeah,
Waymo Autonomous is going to be in every car that accepts a contract with Google, like Volvo has, like Stellantis has with Renault, and I think it's Renault. Not sorry, it's not Renault.
But that's where I disagree with you, Michael. That's where I disagree. I don't think it's going to become Waymo autonomous. I mean, they might call it autonomous, just like Tesla calls their stuff full self-driving. Okay, but they're going to stop going there.
Where are they going to go?
They're going to stay with people with an oversight capability. They're going to stay arm's length. They're not going to accept the responsibility of driving. They're not going to drive me.
No,
they're not going to drive.
No. I didn't say.
They're going to give you the toy.
Wait a minute.
They're going to give you the cup so that you can.
That's exactly what I said.
Coffee.
That's exactly what I said. They're going to be in every car that accepts a contract with them, just like those car companies that have accepted Android Automotive.
Yes,
I agree. Driving the cars.
I agree.
They're providing a system. Except with Waymo Autonomous, they're going to have to provide a service. That service is a web-based, a cloud-based service that is, and that's what they're doing that Mobileye and NVIDIA are not doing. They are demonstrating that it's possible to deliver driverless rides end to end, everything that goes into it. They can take that once they've developed it, they can take that and they can say, okay, you, Mr. Transit Authority in Trenton, if you want a contract, you can buy buses, you can buy Zeekers, you can buy Volvos, you can buy whatever you want. And that company will put our system in those vehicles, and you operate it, and we'll provide you all of the backup that you need to operate those services. And we've demonstrated it. That's what they're doing. This is a complete demonstration. If they didn't do what they're doing, like Mobileye and NVIDIA aren't doing what Waymo is doing, even though we say, well, maybe they're competing with them. Yeah, maybe they are for one part of it. They're competing for the possibility of putting their systems into all of the vehicles, but they don't have the other end. They don't have the front end and they don't have the back end. Waymo does.
Okay, I hope they do. I hope they do, because if they do, guess who's going to try to put together all the investors to do it? I'll buy it from them. And I'll provide the service, and I'll create the franchise system. The cookie cutters at here, cookie cutters at there, cookie cutters at there, and I'll make it New Jersey wide, nationwide, worldwide. Please do that. Either you do that, or Mobileye does it, maybe, or Cruise does it, or Tesla does it. Do it, please. I'll be first in line. I think I can put together the investors to be first in line, and I'll become rich.
Yeah, but
all my investors will become rich. You'll become rich. Fred will become rich.
You become rich because you're operating. You become rich because you're operating a driverless mobility service.
Driverless mobility service to really improve the lives of a hell of a lot of people who such that, and I'm going to disrupt how they get around, and I'm going to create economies and so on. Of course, that's the vision.
Yep, and the vision
I would love for them to do it.
But the vision is not to develop the hardware and the software,
I don't want to do the
hardware, mapping capabilities and everything else that Waymo is doing right now.
Yeah, they're doing it. The problem is they're finding out that doing it driverlessly is really tough.
Exactly.
And they all of a sudden look over, just like Tesla is doing, just like Mobileye is doing. Oh my goodness, how many 30 million vehicles sold every day? Let me put it all in that. Let me become the disruptor. Let me get 80% of that business. Because guess what? I can do that without really being good. I can be half butt. I don't take any responsibility. Because if I'm doing it for you, I have to be responsible whenever, oh my goodness, we drag somebody 20 feet. Oh my goodness, we thought we were doing good. We thought we were being good, good, good Boy Scouts in moving our car out of the way so we don't cause any more delays to poor San Franciscans. Oh, let us get our car out of the way. They might be delayed 2
you're
seconds.
segueing into Cruise here.
It's brutal. It is brutal to segue, but this is what happens if this is the struggle that every transit company comes in. This is a struggle that every airline company goes in. This is a struggle that every train company, they are giving people rides.
Right.
If you give somebody a ride, you end up being responsible.
Exactly.
Therefore, you have to be damn good. Waymo has turned out to be damn good. But all of a sudden, what I would like to point out with respect to the Uber thing is the Uber thing. They get to, if they just do Uber, they get to earn human revenue with expending robo costs. They get this much revenue while expending this little cost.
I don't. I try to go through that little point there. The reason that Uber, I don't know how it stayed in business, and it made a lot of money by getting people to invest in it, but the business that it's in, the taxi business that it's in, is going absolutely nowhere.
Absolutely.
It's trying to get more and more money out of the dollar that the customers are paying, and that money is coming out of the taxi drivers' pockets, and so they're getting more and more upset because they can't make a living with it.
Yeah.
But Alan, they bring the car. If Uber goes into the driving business, Uber has to provide the car. That is not an insignificant expense.
I know. The situation that exists here is that we have the lead company, Uber, in trying to get business, has to charge this much. If they really had to pay the driver what the driver deserves, they'd have to charge this much. They squeeze that entity down to this much. No. Waymo comes in there and says, hey, we're going to charge this much, just a little bit less. And to get people to come in on the Uber platform and whatever. But guess what their costs are? Down here. Why? Because they don't pay a driver. With managing the vehicles using computers, you can get a heck of a lot more productivity so that your capital cost of a vehicle goes up. Holy mackerel, that's how they make a ton of money, having to now do this little cost where Uber really should be paying that much. They only pay that much. They're going to go bankrupt. They're not going to survive. How many people want to pay this much? 2. A lot of people want to pay this much. Now, I believe in the supply demand curve and and price and so on. As the price goes, this is where the disruption opportunity of driverless vehicle is not safety. They've got to be safe. They can't be disruptively safe because safety is not non-safety is not the reason why people don't go. The reason why people don't go is
money.
Costs them too much. And that's where you can be disrupted. Waymo's never said, "Oh, we can do this inexpensively." In fact, if they really did work and they put it into Google, they could probably justify through advertising, maybe make it free.
No.
Maybe not.
Just,
I don't.
no,
I agree with you. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
There are probably a lot of people who are making their evaluations of what Waymo might be or what Cruise might be based on that silly idea that they're going to be sitting there and they're going to be captured captured market for advertisers.
All I know is if I'm the Donald and I build a tall building, how do I make sure I get rent from all the floors? Is I put a mobility system in there that's free. Sorry.
Huh.
Okay. If I do this horizontally,
I get into my Uber taxi, and
sure, people will decide to
I
stay
have my
home.
iPhone. I have my iPhone.
I understand.
I've read things where they say that that Uber is going to be able to, or whoever is running the operation is going to be able to get revenue because I'm using my iPhone inside of a vehicle that's being operated by somebody. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
don't
level of
believe it.
silliness. No,
Maybe.
no,
No, I
no.
agree. Even though if I were go in New York City taxi system, I now have a thing and I turn the damn thing off and there's advertising all around me and I turn it all off. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And if I
So,
ride New Jersey Transit, they now have at the train station, Princeton Junction, advertising, and they have advertising in buses. They have advertising up here in New York City subway. They have advertising up there. I understand, and they don't have advertising in elevators. Why?
they,
Because the people realize that the elevator as a mobility system for people who want to ride versus want to give themselves a ride, the mobility system that gives them a ride is so darn much better than the mobility system for which they can give themselves a ride, which is feet on steps. They do it every day. Now, the competitor with respect to going on horizontally, this guy. And of course, the madmen have told us, geez, it's free. I mean, I want to buy just so I compete with my neighbors and make myself look good. Look at how much my neighbors are going to appreciate me. Do you know what kind of car I have, Michael?
which one?
I'm only kidding you.
Well,
I don't know. It's intriguing. It is really intriguing because I think what you've brought out with this analysis is really where Waymo sits. They have been saying that they are the autonomous driver. They're saying that and nobody says, "Oh my goodness, you're overselling it." But when Elon says, "I have a full self driving," I mean, isn't autonomous even more BS and more outlandish than full self driving? I mean, autonomous means it's going to do it itself. You don't need, it doesn't, you don't tell it where to go, it tells you where to go.
one of the two companies, though, Alan, is providing rides.
Pardon me?
One of the two companies is providing rides.
Yeah,
We
no,
speak,
it
and has been
is.
for some
And
time.
I applaud Waymo for doing that. And they can do it. But as the alphabet board is going to look at Waymo and then look at how what they've done, and then look at what's happened to poor Cruise and how it's gotten beat up, it's gotten its teeth kicked in. They're saying, "Oh my goodness, you know, what kind of outlandish thing is going to all of a sudden cause us to lose the ranch?" They're going to say it's not worth it because exactly as Michael has laid out here, they have this whole enormous market of 30, 60 million cars a year being sold that could use the Waymo autonomous driver. It's not going to be autonomous. Why? Because that involves the risk, not only of giving me the ride, but telling me where I'm going. If it's really autonomous.
Reuters is reporting that related to this, that the AV Industry Association, they have their own association, is saying the U.S. Transportation Department needs to support the development of autonomous vehicles. They're asking the federal government now for help. They're saying they're at a critical juncture. Look at what's happened with Cruise, as you pointed out, and in need of strong leadership from the U.S. DOT. They're asking for intervention by Pete Buttigieg to prop up the industry.
Okay, I don't know. Having government prop this up at this point when 30 billion has been invested in it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no. Sure, whatever. Um,
This
you
is why
think they have a magic pen here to do something? No, we don't even know where we're going on this thing, let alone have a magic pen to do it.
Well, of course, they point to what goes on the support that companies get in China. Um,
Yeah, well, what happened in China is that China apparently, I think it's a translation error. China is saying that if you're going to do autonomous vehicles or driverless vehicle and you're going to give people rides, you have to have an attendant. I mean, that kills it.
yeah, that was
That
another
kills it.
report out this week,
That
right?
kills it because it's the affordability piece so that you can deal with the spatial temporal variation. If you have a bunch of people going from this point to this point, boom, yeah, sure. We got choo-choos, we got buses. You can afford to pay somebody. Put a gazillion people in it. Okay. But that's not where people have chosen to live. That's not how they've chosen to live their lives. Maybe when they're told by the autonomous system what they should do, maybe they'll then just go between these two places. But the problem is it's onesie twosies. Mass transit can't handle onesie twosies. How does onesie twosies handle? We handle it ourselves. We give ourselves a ride. Then we give our kids a ride. Then we give our parents a ride. Then we give our friends a ride. Then we give our who knows what a ride. And then we do whatever. And we actually outlaw hitchhiking, maybe.
Well, one
You
of the
can't do it unless it's inexpensive. And if you have to have if you have to have that person, and you got to pay somebody a living wage, not an Uber wage, not a gig worker wage, a living wage that will then join a Swedish union to make sure that they get a living wage. You can't do it. You can't afford it. It's not even close. The beauty of automation since day one has been to take human costs and replace it with robo or automation costs. What did that do? That created a market that grew much greater, created more jobs than the jobs you lost by taking human costs and reducing them down to robo costs. That's what automation does. Name something that's automated. That's what it does. There used to be a faculty road and the dinky. There probably used to be some guy or gal who took the gate up and down. We had toll takers on the New Jersey Turnpike.
Thank God for that. They're still there. It
There's,
saved
there's
me.
still a couple.
It saved me from going to jail for being a scofflaw for 2 weeks of not paying the tolls wherever I went because I couldn't put my quarters into the thing, and I didn't have a automated system. And I drove through 3 states, and every place I went, there were no until I got finally to the airport in New Jersey where there was someone who could take my money. And it saved me from going. I'm sure it was saved me from going to jail. It was 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
well, Elizabeth.
Is there an extradition treaty?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
we took Elizabeth and I took my students down to Boca Chica to see the launch of Starship, and we didn't. We ended up being routed on a toll road. Okay, it says you had to have a toll thing.
Sure.
And otherwise you get in the mail. So all of a sudden we got, instead of paying who knows what 12 cents because we didn't have a toll thing, it was what, $25. It was 70 cents for the thing and a who knows what service fee on top of it.
And there,
I mean,
thank you.
Enormous revenue generator for the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, but that's, hey, we digress.
We often do that. But
we
one thing about
we have fun with it
this,
though, right?
This business of driverless vehicles, the problem the main problem is that we have a very difficult time even though many of the people who are working with it have a scientific background, have a scientific experimental background. They understand you cannot look at multiple variables all at the same time and do a good job. You've got to limit the amount of variables that you have so that you can look at them and study them individually and then begin to take them maybe in pairs and trebles and so on. Whenever we talk about driverless, we constantly get into this discussion, which is multivariable, and we never get anywhere. NHTSA has a problem of not being able to know where to start. They don't know what to do first. The EU on the other end says, we know where to start. We're the decider. We put things down and say, these are the specifications for a driverless vehicle. And now we're going to make this type approval in all of the states. And I spent an hour on the phone this morning with a client talking about what Sweden is going to have to do in order to enable the capability for driverless vehicles to come into Sweden. And NHTSA doesn't have that. They don't do things in that way. There isn't a decider, particularly now, that can say this is where we're going to go and this is how we're going to do it, because everybody's got their own agenda and everybody's got a voice and everybody can say exactly what they want. So, I can sympathize with the guys at NHTSA and girls at NHTSA, but at some point in time, we're going to have to start to take a look at this from a completely different perspective than the one that they've been looking at. And I hope that our book will be able to do that, help to do that at least, to focus this on the issue of why are we doing this in the first place? Why do we have driverless vehicles? If it's not for making, 95% of the accidents occur because of the people are bad. That's silly. That's a silly argument for this. They're going to happen in any case. And we can see that with all the vehicles like Cruise, where, everybody has accidents. So I don't know. I'll come back to my point. My point was to try to look at a variable. And one of this variable was, who is going to operate the services? And why isn't it not going to be Waymo? What makes sense here? Who is going to, the next one will be, okay, let's pick somebody. Is it Trenton Transit or Scranton Colts or is it going to be a taxi company that really can make business, unlike Uber, who didn't know what a taxi business was and went into it anyway? Yeah, who is it going to be that will operate these? Or is it going to be a magnet like Alain Kornhauser, who's going to say, I know how to do this and I can make this thing work because I'm going to be an operator. I'm not going to be a hardware salesman. I'm not going to be a software operator. I'm going to be an operator of services. And no one has stepped up to that as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you that those are the real substantive questions here. The issue who's going to do this, because this is a lemonade stand business. You're selling a glass of lemonade at a time. There are 1 billion person trips in the United States every day. Half of them are people who need a ride. Half of them are people who give themselves a ride. That's 500 million, glasses of lemonade. It has to end up being a Starbucks or a McDonald's or something like that. Ends up being a franchise sort of operation that has some sort of central vision, brings together the pieces and the technology, the beans and the cash registers and the Wi-Fi systems that go in so that you have Wi-Fi and all that, whatever, and all the various pieces, gets a cookie cutter and then goes into community A and talks to them and says, what kind of modifications do you want here? What kind of things do you have architecturally that you would want here, or whatever? And then boom, boom, boom. The ones in the airports look different than the ones on Fifth Avenue of Starbucks. And of course, maybe all the McDonald's have all arches, okay?
And there will be more than one.
And the opportunity to then take this and characterize it by the community so that it becomes a community asset in partnership with the community all of a sudden makes it a business that might be able to thrive. But that's what it's going to take. And the providers of the lidars, the gizmos, my recommendation to Cruise with respect to the origin vehicle, okay, it's great. You're going to not develop it next year. But when you bring it back out year after that, don't focus on the lidars. Nobody who's getting a ride cares that you have lidars. Okay? You're not selling them lidars. You're selling them a ride that's comfortable, safe, and affordable. Cheap, because that's what you have the opportunity to do. And can take you to where you are, to where you want to go almost. You have to put in a little shoe leather. Affordably. And it's safe. Is it a billion times safer than the other ways you would go? No. And NHTSA, damn it, you shouldn't just be about safety.
That's their job. That's their only job.
No, it's not their job. Their job
is
mobility.
No, it isn't. It's their
It's got to be their job.
Well, then
because if their job is safety, if their job is safety, then they tell us, buy on Amazon at your desk at home. Don't ever go out.
Transportation Safety Administration. It's in the name, just like autonomous driving is in Waymo's name. It's what they do. If you want to change what they do, well, there's certain.
Well, they are they not under the Department of Transportation?
They're under the Department of Transportation.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And there are other groups within the Department of Transportation, but NHTSA is about is in the safety business. Sorry.
If you optimize,
you could disagree with me, but I'm not just...
if your objective function is so narrow as one thing, then guess what? Go out of business. Close it. There are trade-offs in this world, folks. You don't get to just do one thing. I'm sorry.
But I think we're talking to the federal government here. When the NHTSA was set up in a long 50 years ago, and it had one thing that it was supposed to be doing. Sometimes it does it very well, depending on the administrator, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think it does a great job, but its objective is to provide mobility as safe as it can. As good a mobility as it can, as safe. It is a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well, the book is the real case for driverless mobility.
And I guess I have it here. I mean, look at me here. I'm the happiest camper in the world. Happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Has it started already? Goodness.
Yeah, no, it started last night, and I was on Zoom with my grandchildren, and doing the prayers and lighting the candles. Holy hell! I'm the happiest camper in the world. I don't care about Waymo, autonomous, blah blah blah. NHTSA. Who cares?
Did you give them advanced copies of the real case for driverless mobility?
Well, I wish I had one.
Yeah, me too.
Coming soon next month. So
next month, supposedly.
One or two other quick stories, Alan,
sure.
from your newsletter. You were including a story that happened in your neighborhood. A man who was killed by a woman backing up in her driveway in Princeton and against a garage.
Yeah. It's tragic. Person died. A woman who had no idea she was doing anything bad. I suspect. I don't think. There's no indication she was backing up. She didn't know. And of course, nobody's, we've got to fire her from her CEO job. I mean, we all have empathy for her. It's tragic. But somehow, we get beyond that tragedy and we put up with the car. We aren't calling up Lexus, fire your CEO. We aren't saying, Lexus, you can't sell any more cars. It's tragic. And this happened less than a mile from where I live. It's tragic. What happened in San Francisco was tragic. The industry learned an enormous amount from that. They learned to trade off, moving out of the way to make sure that no San Franciscan would be further delayed because of whatever the heck happened. With, oh my goodness, there may be somebody might get hurt even more because we moved to try to give benefit to San Franciscans so they wouldn't lose 2 seconds in congestion that might arise because the vehicle is there shaking. What the heck just happened in the middle of a lane? And so we learned. So we can fix that. That's fixable. But it's not fixable through fire and tile. Not fixable through whatever the D and stop in production of the origin vehicle. My goodness, we're hurting the opportunity to provide affordable rides and improve people's lives because they got a ride. Sorry.
One final story. It looks like there may be rail service again from Scranton to New York City.
Yes.
Something that was discontinued, what, 50 years ago?
It was 1970 or 71. The last ride I took was 1967. It was to New Jersey. My final destination was a town called Basking Ridge, New Jersey, and I took the ride, took it back as well. We used to take that train into Hoboken and then the ferry across to Manhattan. We had relatives in Brooklyn, and then we take however we got over to Brooklyn.
Subway.
But so yeah, and it looks very much like it's going to happen. I have a friend in Scranton. His lawyer. He was a classmate of mine. His name is George Clark. George said that the night before I sent him a message about this, which came to me from, I know you sent it, but it came to me through my WVIA public radio broadcasting in Scranton, which I listened to. I get a kind of every couple of days, I get a kind of newsletter form from them saying, it's going to happen. So I sent this to George, and he wrote back and said the representative who's in there, and I can't remember his name, but the representative who was in there was walking his dog in George's neighborhood, and they talked to each other. And he said he was at a reception with President Biden, and Biden said to him, well, let's say Joe, whatever his name is, I got you your railroad. Now what are you going to, now he didn't say anything. I got you your railroad, and I hope you're happy. So it looks like it's actually going to happen. And the Senator Casey family is very well known and respected in the area. Senator, I think he was a governor. There was a governor called Casey, but Senator Casey has been pushing this ever since 1970, 71 when it stopped. So yes, I hope it does. I'll be there to ride the first train.
Just terrific. And Alan, if you look at Alan's mantle, he's fond of trains too.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see an Erie Lackawanna back there, but or even a Lackawanna or a Delaware and Hudson or a New Jersey Central instead of a Santa Fe. But I think it's a Santa Fe, isn't it? A Santa Fe, Alan? Is it a Santa Fe?
Yeah, Fred, I am fond of trains. I like to think that I had some influence or impact on Conrail. I like to say that I participated in Conrail from its conception to its interment. Because I had the pleasure of testifying in Congress in 1975, September, on the final system plan, basically saying that there was a lot of downside risk, but there was some upside potential that we could save the bankrupt railroads, or some semblance of the bankrupt railroads in the Northeast, by the creation of Conrail, and then had the pleasure to work for the Conrail board on a number of things and so on. And we came within 2 weeks of convincing the Conrail board to buy the Southern Pacific Railroad to create the first transcontinental railroad, when it was snatched up from underneath us, and didn't create the first transcontinental railroad. I mean, we were within 2 weeks. And instead, Conrail then decided to sell itself to the Norfolk Southern and CSX, and we carved it up in my conference room, with CSX on one side of the table and Norfolk Southern on the other side. And they took the pieces, and the stockholders and the government got paid back. And I think in the end, my testimony in 1975 was really true. There was an enormous downside risk, but the upside potential was there, and we have pretty strong freight railroads in the Northeast that are profitable. In the United States, they're profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're profitable. If you could make them driverless and get rid of the last two people, they could be really profitable. But I guess that's not going to happen. Certainly not in my lifetime. So we took it from five-person crews to two-person crews. Basically bought out 3 jobs, and that allowed them to end up being profitable and function, I guess pretty well.
What a history.
25 years span there, from basically 1975 to year 2000, give or take.
I'm going to put in a pitch for the last issue of this dispatcher that's going out. The last article in Musings is about people striking to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it deals with the automotive strike in the U.S. with the big 3, and with Tesla in Sweden.
Yeah, and the Tesla situation, we've discussed a little bit, and there is a situation, and workers deserve a living wage. Okay, now whether or not they want to do it whether or not the management is doing it on their own accord, or they need to be pushed and whatever into it, they of course deserve that. But my comment on automation is that in the places where jobs have been replaced by automation, just by the fact that the nation has grown and has more people working today than it had maybe at any time, and it's just been going up the whole time, that I guess one has to say that somehow the automation has created more jobs than it's destroyed. Now, there are dislocations, and we certainly need to deal with that well, not just haphazardly, but well. People need retraining. People need to be compensated appropriately and all that stuff so that their lives can continue. They need to find good jobs that they enjoy going to, that they don't call jobs, because if it's work, then
it's work. But
one of the things I like to say about my personal life is I've never worked, because I've never considered. I've gotten the fantastic opportunity to do what the hell I've wanted to do, and somehow I got appropriately compensated for it. And I wish that for everyone. Everybody deserves that. I've had the good fortune of living a life like that, and everybody else does. So I'm not looking to, but that makes it tough. We have to work at it. We have to deal with that. We have to figure out how people earn a respectable wage.
Yeah, including bus drivers and taxi drivers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, Michael, we want to thank you for spending time with us once again. Really terrific and great discussion. A lot of insight on Waymo and everything else.
It really, the stuff on Waymo is really valuable and important. And in fact, the preliminary that you had sent me, I had shared with my class, and one of the best kids in my class, Henry, came up and he said he really appreciated what you did with. He's actually a computer science major, and I guess I don't know if he's going to go to work for Google or whatever, but you know, it's really good.
You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com. Wherever you turn to for podcasts, you can find us as well. Smart speakers can play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Stay safe and have a very happy holiday season.